Normally I wouldn't entertain this kind of stuff, but I've seen hundreds of thousands of people suggesting that this fight was thrown by Mike Tyson, and it's just not the case. And all of this really does stem from a lack of understanding of boxing. And I've even had people message me suggesting that's not true. Many videos are circulating like this, suggesting that Tyson purposely held back and he threw the fight. I think the problem here is that the promotion pushed Tyson back at his pomp, but that was 38 years ago. Whilst nearly 40-year-old videos like this were being used in promotion, there were no videos of the final fights of Tyson's pro career.
Kevin the Cry to Journeyman is making Mike Tyson look like a third-tier heavyweight.
And quite frankly, I'm glad, because I don't like looking at a legend past his best, taking a beating that he should never have taken. But ultimately, Tyson was finished back then, and although we saw glimpses of his brilliant head movement, what we saw on the weekend was just sad. Anyone that knows boxing knows that age waits for no man, and whilst you can look good on the pads, when you have a moving opponent in front of you and your legs are gone, it's virtually impossible to get your shots off. Timing, sharpness and closing the gap are key, and that only comes from constant training and fighting and remaining sharp. And even when Tyson did land his shots, look how off his legs are. Even when the shots land, there's just no steady base to get any power in, and you're going to be completely vulnerable if you get caught back. People have also suggested to me that Tyson just looked completely different from his exhibition against Roy Jones 4 years ago. But the difference is, that was an exhibition. Roy himself was in his 50s, and he wasn't hitting Tyson back with any real intent. Now, I don't rate Jake Paul as a top-level boxer at all, but he's 27 years old. He's very strong and athletic, and every time he even clipped Tyson, he was hurting him. With Tyson's obvious fatigue, his legs not being underneath him, his lack of timing, and his vulnerability when taking punches, that happens when you get to that age. He clearly isn't going to take the chances as he was against Roy. And even Jake saw this, and I believe he backed off after the first few rounds after hurting Tyson. I mean, just look at what happened to Evander Holyfield, one of boxing's most durable warriors, when he stepped into the ring past his 50s. Vitor Belfort just blew him away in a round, in a fight that was really sad to watch. And although he's not the greatest boxer, Paul can clearly punch. He's in his physical athletic prime, and he's been training constantly for years. Had a fatigued Tyson have overextended and walked into one of these, the results could have been catastrophic. And even with the Jones fight, for an example, 4 years is a huge amount of time in a boxer's life. Look at Golovkin here in the second fight. Look how he's able to close the gap, get into range and get out of range. Compare this with the third Canelo fight, just 4 years later, where a 40-year-old Golovkin has lost his step and can't close the range. These things just happen with age. And this is an example of a fighter at the top, let alone Tyson, who's bordering on 60. And I'm not bashing either fighter. I'm glad Tyson got back in shape, made money and came out of it healthy. But the genuine response that this fight has had, with so many people convinced it was thrown, suggests to me that although these fights are attracting new eyes to the sport, they're spreading a false narrative. And people being introduced to the game won't understand the brutal nature of it, and just how special and what it takes to be as good as someone like Tyson was. And personally, as an active professional boxer who loves the sport, I don't think it does it any good. Time waits for no man, no matter how special a talent they were. Even the oldest world champions in history eventually succumbed to the limitations of age. And to expect a 58-year-old Tyson to be as sharp as he was 40 years ago is like expecting Lionel Messi to be able to pull this stuff off in 20 years. It's just not going to happen.